This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and we're gonna be focusing on some more difficult conversations this week. Because that's not something that I dabble in from time to time, but definitely some more difficult conversations this week. There's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll shed some more light on that tomorrow. But for now, I went to today. It's a Sunday. I went and saw two of my dear friends renew or redo their wedding vows. One of them has recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer, so she's been battling it for the last 5 years. Unfortunately, this time around it got a bit too serious, and so she's early 30, 31, if that 30 maybe. And it's sort of interesting being in this space all over again and seeing these two beautiful people share wedding vows, and also sort of knowing that this is the reason why they're doing it as well. Like, it's the reason why maybe they're encouraging it faster than what they would have done it otherwise. And so it's this beautiful thing that's tragic at the same time. And we were talking afterwards. We went and had a drink afterwards, and a couple of people there talking, and we were talking about all sorts of stuff. There's about eight of us at the table, and then half the conversation then ended up talking about death and all that sort of stuff. And then there was a bit of a silence after one of the comments, and so the conversation had kind of come to a stop, and then there was a bit of a silence. Then one of the people that were there said, "Oh, sorry to put such a downer on the conversation." It's like we really got to stop looking at death as a downer. Clearly it is. In many senses of the word. What I'm getting at, though, and what's really important about this, is that death literally is one of the true facts of life that we know every single human being will be associated with, whether they experience. From my standpoint, I hope I get to bury my father. And it's such a weird thing to say, or weird thing to hear for a lot of people, but I'm like, I fucking want to make sure that God does not have to bury me. The reality is that death's a very hard conversation to have, but when we really start to truly understand and even start to actually respect and appreciate death, then we actually start to have the ability to choose to live. Those that are most aware of death often live the most life, right? And so this is our ability to stop putting things off. This is my whole conversation around and then you buy a caravan. This is my whole conversation around the future is only reserved for those that can live in the present, because if we're constantly planning, then we're never living, and then we die. It's like, what the fuck was that? Right? You paid some banks. Good job. And it sounds pretty brutal like that, but I'm like, there comes a point where you really have to be able to learn how to live and truly live in the definition that means something to you. And throughout this week, I'm going to pepper a bit of an idea and have the difficult conversations around death, and show you my inklings and see the beauty that I see in something so traumatic and tragic at the same time. And the beautiful thing about death is that every single time it touches somebody near us, we have the ability to review their life. Now, here's the thing: we get to have that ability any given time. We can go back and look over our life and look over someone else's life, or we can really value the things that people value in people at any given time. It doesn't actually have to be when there's a casket, right? And the problem is that sure, we have our own lives, fair enough, but the other thing about all of that is that these people that will likely go to our funeral, what are the ways that we can spend time with the people that mean the most to us without having to be around a casket? It's a decent question, right? It's also looking at this and going, if we can understand and appreciate death more, then what do we get to do with our lives And I mean, like, truly lives. Like, this is where you hear me say, like, you don't get your 20s again. You don't get your 30s again. And this is where everything about working on yourself is worth it. Unraveling your bullshit, like moving through that, and doing the hard work. You didn't come with an instruction manual. It's worth doing the work as you mature. And the reason being is because there are so many people that waste, and I mean literally fucking waste their 20s and 30s and so on, maybe 40s and 50s and whatever. You can see people as grandparents now wasting their fucking 60s complaining about shit out of their control. Right? But people do that in their 20s. It just sounds different. It doesn't sound as ridiculous, maybe. Right? And so this is the thing, is that we have a choice every single fucking day. And days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years, years into decades, and decades into lifetimes. Choosing what we want to focus on and what we want to actually give our life to, right? Our living. It's a really important point, because if you wouldn't give somebody $200 cash, then why are you giving them hours of your life? And it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means like your time is like the most precious commodity, because it's something that you can never buy and you can never buy back. You don't get to buy back your 20s. You don't get to buy back your 30s, right? But here's the thing, is that we have this pen in our hand, which is writing our story, and we may not know where the end is. So it's worth making our story as passionate, as interesting as possible in the process, because if we're just waiting for the later chapters for it all to sound like it was a great story, then you may not even get there. Like, the idea that we're promised tomorrow is just, it's a fucking lie. You're not. No one's promised tomorrow. And we all know this. And like sit with it. It's fucking uncomfortable, but sit with it. Sit with this idea of death. And the ability to see that allows us to truly start seeing what's important, because they say that you can tell the size of a man by the size of the things that bother him, right? And it's 2018, make that a woman, make that the person, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? The point there being is that when we get wound up around little things, we're not aware of the actual big picture. We're caught in the tiny little bullshit problem that we're creating and the meaning we're creating about that. And we're not actually seeing the whole big picture. And this is where all our work and all the depth work and all the continual unfolding and unraveling and unpicking allows us to move that bullshit out of the way, so we stop like pissing ourselves off and blaming it on other people over shit that just doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, why give it 5 minutes? If it doesn't matter in 5 minutes, why give it 5 seconds? Like, you keep on, you can keep on applying that rule again and again. So it's within our own power here to really actually take the opportunity to understand death, so that we then can choose to live. Because we all know people who are still physically alive, but they died a long time ago, right? And then often they'll discourage us from our dreams and our goals and our aspirations. But the most powerful question here is that you? Did you die a long time ago, only to discourage people, right? It's a difficult question, and only one that you know the answer to. The beautiful thing about it all, though, is that we get to today to decide to do something different, to act different, to live different, to be different. We get that opportunity every single day. But it's called work. It's brushing your teeth, right? It's as simple as that. Going to the gym is brushing your teeth. You can't work out for 24 hours one day every 6 months and expect to get fit. You got to spread all your training out over the space of a year. You all know this. It's not brand new. Everything look, most of the shit that I say on these podcasts, you guys already know. That's why it resonates with you. That's why some of the things that I say to you don't just logically make sense, but you feel it in your fucking body, because it's something that you've thought before, or there's a part of that you know to be true. You've just never put it into a sentence before. And when you hear it, you're like, fuck. It's not always these new things. It's like, fuck, there's other people out here that think like I think. Yes, there is. There is other people out there that think like that. That's why we've got to keep having these conversations and speaking about what's true for us and getting rid of the bullshit. And get rid of the fakeness. Get rid of all that sort of stuff. The world needs more of that. Start living. Team, I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, if you found this podcast beneficial, it'd mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. If you haven't already, jump on Facebook, search Mood Prep Online, and that's it for me. I'm done. Until tomorrow, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.